This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. You can always send an email to studio@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our radio website, where you can chat with us 7/24/365, as well as see what we've done, doing, and going to be doing at xzoneradiotv.com. My first guest tonight, X-Zone Nation, is a gentleman we've had the pleasure on the show before, talking about the strange, the weird, the bizarre, and we're going to be telling you about something strange, weird, and bizarre that happened to him earlier today. Wilbur Allen is our guest, and he is an engineer and inventor, and he's no stranger to UFO encounters. An alien encounter in the United Kingdom at the age of 5 left him face-to-face with a group of gray ETs. He is a former White House Air Force One engineer for ABC News and a contract photographer at National Geographic. His website is www.ufodc.com. And Wilbur, thanks very much for joining us. But I've got to tell you, pal, those photos that you put up on Facebook yesterday just blew me away.
Yeah, they're blowing away a few people here, and it seems that there's a very strong extraterrestrial presence in Washington, D.C. airspace.
Do you think it has anything to do with the presidential elections?
I will be more inclined to say it is more associated with the activities associated with CERN.
The Hadron Collider in Switzerland. How do you make that?
Yes.
How do you make that connection, Wilbur?
Well, it's interesting. If you notice, when those colliders, and there are several of them, there's going to be one that's even larger than the one in Switzerland that's in construction in China.
Wow.
When they started coming online, the activity associated to UFOs increased tenfold.
All right, it increased tenfold, but do we have any idea why it increased tenfold?
Well, NASA confirmed the validity of the Bermuda and Alaska triangles, and that the issues associated to activities in those areas are associated to deviations in the magnetic field.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying essentially that these portals do indeed exist. When you start disrupting the magnetic field, you are inciting a reaction. For example, onboard Mir in 1990 Kip Thorne located spatial anomalies which were associated to the magnetic pole at the North Pole and South Pole of Earth. Those spatial anomalies were wormholes. They documented objects entering into Earth's atmosphere and leaving Earth's atmosphere and dematerializing into the same regions of space that they would materialize into. So they've confirmed the validity of these portals. And these colliders that they're putting online, which they generate high magnetic fields, are indeed disrupting those magnetic fields associated with Earth and facilitating anomalous conditions known as portals.
Why over Washington?
You know, Washington is the center of the power structure of the United States.
But
what's interesting is all of the events that I document, they all have consistent trajectories associated to them. And when I line things up, they're directly in line with the White House, or they're in line with the U.S. Capitol building. So I'm able to plot that specifically from my pool of analysis, which I use on a consistent basis.
all right, stand by. We've got to take a short break. We'll be right back. X-Zone Nation, Wilbur Allen is our very special guest. www.ufodc.com. And he's written a couple of books, including A Close Encounter of the Third Kind, The Washington Monument, A Close Encounter of the Third Kind, Baltimore, Maryland, and A Close Encounter of the Third Kind at the U.S. Capitol. We'll both be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
Shamanism is recognized as a method to access the quantum level. Mastery of shamanic skills puts spiritual information and healing power into your hands. Path Home Shamanic Art School, a bonded Colorado certified occupational school, has met rigorous state standards, ensuring its director and instructors have the qualifications to teach the shamanic arts. Path Home offers its certification program in blocks of study. Block 1, a 5-day intensive, will be held in the beautiful mountain town of Coaldale, Colorado, October 13th through 18th. Registration deadline is September 12th. Experience journey trance, power animals, helping spirits, sacred space, and life purpose. Come discover your power. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, in the magical world of shamanism. Call 303-775-3431 or visit findyourpathhome.com.
Exonation, before we get back to our guest this hour, Wilbur Allen, I'd like to ask you a question. How would you like to be part of UFO history? No, I'm not kidding. Want to check it out? See for yourself. www.cubesatfordisclosure.com. Wilbur, for the listeners who may not have had the opportunity of hearing you before on the show, tell them a little bit about yourself and about the work that you're doing, but getting evidence that UFOs are real.
I've been at this for a minute, and I am the product of the United States military. My parents were U.S. Air Force, and I was raised on U.S. Air Force bases. And I initially made contact with extraterrestrials as a child on a U.S. military base in the United Kingdom. Whatever they put in me is acting as a transponder of sorts, and wherever I go, these objects appear and disappear. So I've created a technology which enables me to document them, and the technology that I'm utilizing is essentially the same technology used by NASA in space, however, more with along with some steroids applied to it. But what I'm doing is essentially the same thing NASA's doing in space. And my work's seen on various television shows. One of the television shows is Missing in Alaska, which is on the History Channel. The other is Twisted Believers Tornado Alley, which is NBC Universal on the Weather Channel, and Uncovering Aliens, which is aired on all the Discovery networks.
With all this information that is coming out, the photographs that you've taken, your personal experiences, why are there still those who believe that the governments of the world are suppressing the information, stopping the public from knowing what is real?
Because they are. It's kind of interesting. It seems to be that the powers that be are more interested in the technology and the advancement than the implications associated to direct contact with extraterrestrials. Now think about this. CERN is a device which is utilized to augment the magnetic field to create a wormhole. And what they want to do is open this wormhole and bring in an extraterrestrial spacecraft, close the wormhole behind it, and capture the spacecraft. That's the philosophy behind this. They want to bring the technology here and then take it from them. Does that sound like a great idea?
Not really. Not really, because why should they?
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. But I would imagine that the ETs who have this advanced technology to get here must have an idea of what's going on. And are they taking preventative measures from this to happen based on your experience?
I think so, because what I think has happened since 1990, the discovery of the wormholes along the North and South Poles, that the extraterrestrials have made it a little bit more elaborate in that they've created portals associated to these wormholes. And you'll notice where most reports where there are UFOs, that these objects would materialize into the airspace. They don't fly into the airspace like one would think, like a meteor, where, when you think about a meteor or a shooting star, you can see the meteor or shooting star entering into the atmosphere. It's burning up, and it flies across the sky as it's burning up. These objects are not doing that. They're materializing into the airspace, and then they fly through. That's a little bit different. So they're using these portals to get here.
How did
undetected.
Undetected. Would this be something like a Stargate that is opening?
That is exactly what they're utilizing, Stargate technology.
For what purpose?
Variable Stargate technology.
Are they using this to?
I think it to get access to areas of interest, like Washington and most areas where there are large numbers of UFO activity. There's an interest to those extraterrestrials that are here.
So what do you what happens to these UFOs that come through the stargates or the portholes? What happens once they're here?
I'm inclined to believe, based on the number of hits that I get, and I'm telling you, I can show you 700 different photographs, and each one of them will look exactly the same. So the frequency associated with that indicates that either there is a base, cloaked mothership, or a portal in this vicinity. I'm inclined to think the portal and the base.
What about the theory that there is a base on the dark side of the moon?
There's bases there.
There are, right?
There's bases on the face of the moon that we can see, but they're not going to tell you that.
With all the abilities of the different governments and individuals to hack into computers, how come nobody's come out with the information that the governments of the world are suppressing the information? Here are the leaked, here are the hacks, here's the proof, like they're doing with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump.
Well, Snowden's doing that with the WikiLeaks and all the information that's being flooded onto the market. Yeah, they're showing that it does indeed exist.
I haven't seen anything that pertains to UFOs.
Well, according to Snowden said that there was a fact that they had extraterrestrial bases located at the center of the Earth.
No disrespect to Snowden, but I would give Assange a lot more credibility and WikiLeaks a lot more credibility than Snowden. You know, WikiLeaks, they provide the evidence. Snowden doesn't.
Yes, they do. Well, he's got his hands tied too, and keep in mind, he's under the gun from both sides, not just on the United States, but also he's being scrutinized by the Russians, so he's not in a good position.
So why would he say these things if he can't back it up?
I can't answer that guy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what his motives are, but I think he believes that it's for the betterment of the people. But, you know, I don't understand his motives behind putting classified information out there, which could do irreparable damage, which it is doing damage to most of the governments.
Yep. And a lot of innocent people are going to be hurt by it.
A lot of innocent people are being hurt by it.
The photographs that you take, that you put up on your site as well as on Facebook, are they being taken anywhere else in the world?
I have footage that was sent to me from Los Angeles showing the exact same object. There's footage taken in 2013 from an aircraft, which a child was taking video with his cell phone out of a window and documented this streak of light, which is exactly the same as what I'm photographing here. The reports from 1986, Japan Airline Flight 1628, the third object, it is exactly the same as what I'm photographing here. In 1960, the Grumman ground satellite tracking technology that was utilized to track UFOs documented these objects in 1960. So it is not something they don't know about.
How come more and more people are not using their cameras to get these objects? What are you using? Special lenses? Are you using a special type of camera?
I'm not using conventional camera technology. I'm using all of the D-level cameras by Nikon, starting at D4, which are 200,000 ISO to 4 million ISO. So we're talking professional grade. In fact, more advanced than technology utilized by NASA. And these cameras are able to capture these objects using 60 frames per second motion picture frame rate on a nightly basis.
So based on your experience as a photographer, what would you say the size of these objects are, the speed at which they are coming through the portholes or the stargates, and is there a specific direction that they continuously go?
All of the objects I'm photographing are, the quality associated with them are consistent. What's different is the size of them. Some of them can be slightly larger. I photographed what they call the band of light object, which I'm constantly photographing nightly here, initially in Sedona, Arizona, while filming Uncovering Aliens. And the object I photographed in the desert there was perhaps 5 or 6 aircraft carriers in length. And what I'm getting here is 2 to 3 aircraft carriers in length. So they're huge. They're variable sizes.
So if they are staying on planet Earth, where would they be? Where do you think they'd be housed? Where do you think they would be hidden? Would they...
In plain sight. I've got proof. For example, I had an encounter which I took a series of models to an abandoned church, and out of the walls came this luminous ball, and the luminous ball that I photographed is consistent with the luminous balls that I'm capturing over my home nightly. And it indicated without a doubt that this abandoned church could possibly be an extraterrestrial base, because it was in an area where nobody had been inside the structure. What better place to put a base than inside an abandoned building?
But I thought you said they're usually the size of 2 or 3 aircraft carriers, so I'm having a problem trying to...
But look at this, look at this, look at this. I can show you some samples. I've got a sample of a UFO that is the size of a marble. And if we go inside that marble, it may be as large as New York City.
So let me.
You can't think on normal perspectives how these objects are. I've got samples of objects morphing in size and shape, so it's quite possible they could start out large, and when they land here, they could be the size of a quarter.
So would it be safe to say that the craft that you are photographing with your high-end cameras could not be seen by the human eye?
I think they can be seen by the human eye, because I personally have seen them. The issues would be they go by so fast that does your brain have that kind of responsive capability to process that information as fast as they fly by? We're not that fast.
Would these craft be able to be...
So you would see it as a flash. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Would conventional or military radar be able to pick these craft up?
When they're here, yes. But as they go into the portals, they lose all track of them.
You and I have to take a break. When we come back, I'd like to talk to you about what happened to your computers. Fascinating information. Hey, listen, Wilbur, always great having you on the show. Thank you so much for making time for us. Exonation, Wilbur Allen is our guest, www.ufodc.com, and we'll both be back on the other side as we continue from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge, breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Exonation Wilbur Allen is our guest, www.ufodc.com. Wilbur, your photographs have been out there. You've been on television, many TV shows. Anybody who knows anything about UFOs and who is an interest in UFOs in the D.C. area and in the United States certainly have come across your photos. But today, something very strange happened to your computer, and I was wondering if you could share the experience with our listeners.
Well, it started with the website. And normally, the way this technology is that I'm using for a server, it's supposed to be able to take massive numbers of hits. But for some reason, for 3 hours today, I couldn't access my website. It was completely down, and they couldn't explain to me why it was down. So that's still a mystery, and I'm still waiting to hear from the tech support people associated with that. But a lot of this information, it does seem maybe striking a nerve to someone.
Do you think that your site may have been hacked?
Is a very strong possibility, yes.
Have you had any problems with the authorities before?
Never.
Why do you think now that somebody would attack your server, are you doing anything different than you've done before? Are you?
No, it's just getting more consistent, and look at what I'm posting. It looks like the same picture 700 times, 800 times.
So these craft can be, you know, you can say a certain day, a certain time based on your experience and the logging that you've done, and bang, the craft is going to be there.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought.
Okay.
I've got samples taken 8/11/2012, 8/12/2013, 8/14/2015, and 8/14/2016 that are exactly the same.
Has it been investigated as an anomaly and not as a UFO?
It's more, in my opinion, I think it is more a portal here than anything. And basically what I've done was located it.
But do objects go out of the porthole or just in from the porthole?
In and out.
And the appearance of these objects never change?
Never changes.
What do some of the professionals and other members of the UFO community say about your photos?
You know, it's interesting. We have to look at what most people consider are experts, and most of the people who consider the experts are the ones that are looking at the data, and the data that they look at doesn't necessarily have to be along the same level or quality of material that I'm presenting, so they're not necessarily looking at a real picture versus when I present you something, it's a real picture of it. So all I can say is I'm using Newfork, and Newfork's reports are all 100% consistent with everything that I'm photographing.
Are there any other correlations to what's happening on planet Earth besides the collider in Switzerland that could possibly be responsible for these travelers coming through a porthole?
The naturally occurring events of Earth are what's facilitating these portholes. We are a ball, and at the top of the ball and at the bottom of the ball is a magnet.
Mm-hmm.
As Earth spins, so does that magnet proportionally to the rotations of Earth. What happens when you spin a magnet? It creates energy.
Sure. That's why there's magnets inside motors.
It's a generator.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this ball, which we're on is Earth, with these magnets at the north and south poles, which is spinning, and the spinning is what's keeping us here on Earth. It's this rotational force associated to the rotations of Earth. That proportional spinning at the north and south poles is generating this energy, and that energy is facilitating these wormholes constantly.
All right, if I understand the premise, and rightfully so, because it makes a lot of sense. But how would the magnetic anomaly actually affect the flight of a spacecraft? Why would it not repel it instead of allowing it in?
It's not.
Okay.
The fact that it is a magnet, it's the fields associated to that magnet, and because there's variability associated to that field as Earth spins, the variability of that magnetic field also is spinning. The aliens tapped into that, and most planets that do have magnetic fields associated to them also have wormholes associated to them.
Okay. So how would this porthole affect other craft besides the craft that you photograph?
Well, look at what happened to some of the aircraft that went missing in the Bermuda Triangle. That should explain everything. They're gone. There's no trace of them. There's no crash sites, no debris, nothing. That's because those aircraft entered into a portal which manifests itself or could have been induced by extraterrestrials to capture those aircraft.
If there is a porthole over Washington, D.C., where are the other portholes? Because I'm sure there's more than one porthole.
One's at the U.S. Capitol building because I documented that location in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
One is directly over my home, which is located on Logan Circle, which is 4 blocks from the White House. So that would be the logical place to put an entry portal for this specific location. The one at the U.S. Capitol building is located throughout Lower Senate Park, in the Senate side of the U.S. Capitol building. There's also one located above the dome.
There's
several portals located in this area.
All right, but what about other places in the world?
In Sedona, Arizona, there's one located right outside the Sedona Real Motel in Sedona. There's a portal located directly above the Bradshaw Ranch. There's a portal directly located above Area 51 in Nevada. I mean, I've located the areas. They're all there.
But I guess what I'm getting at here, Wilbur, is are these portholes just in the United States, or are they in Canada? Are they in Great Britain?
Everywhere.
So what do you think the purpose of these alien visitors are? Obviously, they pose no threat to us.
They're here.
Pardon?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
How do you deal with skepticism?
I look at my data, and the person I present it to, if they're skeptical of it, I know that they're not necessarily intelligent enough to comprehend it.
Well, that's kind of a strange way of looking at it, because they don't understand it. That doesn't mean they're intelligent?
Not necessarily. I didn't say intelligent. What I'd say is most people have their own beliefs, and you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. And you can put all the data you want in the world in front of somebody, and they just won't see it.
Have you presented your data to NASA or to the Department of Defense or Air Force? And if so, what has been? I
present and share my data with NASA constantly.
And what does NASA say?
I use NASA's data as the basis of analysis. They don't say anything, but I'm doing my research and I'm sharing it with them constantly.
But do they agree with what you're saying?
Yes, of course.
So if NASA agrees that you are in fact capturing photographs of extraterrestrial craft coming through a porthole over the skies of Washington, D.C., the hub of power of the free world, how come nobody else knows about it? Why isn't that? I can't
answer that. I don't know. I put the data out specifically. I constantly put that data on Facebook. I constantly put it on my website. The people that look at my website know about it, but not everyone here looks at my website.
Could it also be because the craft that you display in your photos do not meet the specifications of what people have been fed as the description of the craft by the media?
True.
So how do we go about changing that? How do we go about opening up their eyes to different possibilities, different colors, different spectrums, different ways of seeing things?
We have to do it using the same tools in which they use to do it to us, and that would be Hollywood. And I'm in it, Hollywood, because that's basically where I came from. And what I'm doing, not necessarily on the UFO research level, but what I do in cinematography and photography is indeed entertainment. And I'm using advanced technology to do that. And I'm showing that I can do the same thing they can do without light, and it looks indeed much better. So the course of action would be to take that technology and utilize it at the entertainment level.
But bringing it to the entertainment level, would that give these craft, would that give the porthole credibility, or would it just put it further out into the land of the woo-woos and science fiction?
It probably would put it further out into the land of the woo-woos and science fiction, but it would still put it out in such a way that it then lends to credibility versus something that's fictitious, like what not NASA, but Hollywood is doing now. Well, I'll use NASA now too as an example, because they put out some information not so long ago, which showed a plume of water being ejected from one of the moons around Jupiter. But the picture that they put on their website was a pixelized piece of garbage that is just happened to superimpose on top of the picture of the moon of Jupiter rather. So, I mean, it's just, they're all into this by, means of delusion and putting things out that are not necessarily correct.
So the conspiracy just is not contained to the government itself, but it's also now involving the media and the entertainment industry.
Yes.
You and I have to take a break, our final break for this hour. Exonation. Wilbur Allen is our special guest this hour. His website is www.ufodc.com. And Wilbur and I return as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Exonation, if you'd like to be part of UFO history, all you need to do is go to www.cubesatfordisclosure.com. Go over there. Check it out. You'll be amazed. Be part of what's going to be happening. The launch is scheduled for the summer of 2017. I'm Rob McConnell. We'll be back. Don't go away.
As host of Dialogue with Divinity, I am thrilled to join the X Zone Broadcast Network and their growing number of affiliates. My quest for a connection to the divine ignited my successful career path as an international spiritual counselor for over 40 years, an author of 4 books, and well-known metaphysical educator. My clients call me their spiritual mama. So my job is to offer you a radio show to help you grow spiritually with wisdom and get specific tools from guests who are experts in their field. Tune in to Dialogue with Divinity and be part of the conversation with Spirit. My goal, your happy soul. For more information, please visit my website at johannacarroll.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Coming soon to the X Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. This is Kevin Randle. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com.
What happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold.
Wilbur Allen is our guest, Exonation, www.ufodc.com. I don't know if I ever asked you this, Wilbur. What was it like the first time you took the photo and you saw it on the photo that you have taken a photo of a UFO? How did you feel?
Disbelief, sort of. It was hard, especially when I had the encounter and first documented my first anomaly, which actually was at the Washington Monument, July the 4th in 2002. But the second encounter was July 16th, 2002 at the U.S. Capitol building. And I, along with three people, photographed this objects landing on the roof of the Capitol. One object landed at the reflection pool. One object landed in Taft Park. One object was stationary in the sky above U.S. Senate Park, and it went into this wormhole, which the camera photographed. I mean, it was an entire close encounter that we documented that night. What was even more spectacular is what I think I saw, and I thought I saw a group of people dressed like Mayans walking around, and they were looking around like they were out of place and they were lost. But that's what I recalled from that encounter at the U.S. Capitol building.
Did anybody?
No one believed it.
Was there anyone else there who had witnessed it?
All of the officers on duty. And they made reports. And see, what was interesting, they made the reports, and the sergeant at the time didn't necessarily think the reports were valid until the next day when I made my report to the U.S. Capitol Police and submitted my photographs. And in a room full of detectives at the U.S. Capitol Police Department, the entire room went silent when they looked at the photographs that I photographed that night. And it basically confirmed the reports from their officers on the ground that were on duty at that time.
I'm just trying to correlate everything, and based on the fact that now we've got Mayans appearing as if totally, would they have come through the portal?
Out of nowhere.
Would they have come through a portal?
Yes. I think they came with the objects that materialized at the U.S. Capitol building, and they just let them go there.
So if they're letting this happen, they must be letting a lot of other things happen that we don't know about.
Exactly.
Do you think there's a connection with what the UFOs are part of? Could be religious in nature, part of a religious philosophy?
You know, when you look at that, it's a very strong possibility because what's described in the Bible in reality are extraterrestrial spacecrafts when they call it regarding the chariots of fire.
Yeah.
It's just in simple terms in how they describe the luminous objects that I'm photographing today.
What would you suggest people do who want to take ufology really seriously? How would you change the way that ufology operates based on your experience over the years and based on your technical savvy when it comes to photography?
Well, what I was able to do was, in a form of comparative analysis, is take a sample and then take hundreds of other samples and put it in a folder and show through a comparative analysis that these objects are the same. So I'm able to show, at least forensically, with the amount of data that I have. Initially, it started with still photography, but I needed more because the issues associated to a photograph are you can't tell a person what happened before the object showed up and then what happens the minute the object disappears. There's missing time point references, which video is the only thing that can facilitate that. So I upgraded everything and looked at what was necessary to do extreme cinematography in nocturnal conditions like at the North Pole, and found that only cameras that have extreme high ISO capabilities were those cameras that could do that, and that's the type of technology that I'm utilizing. So it shows without a doubt that these objects are indeed here.
Is there any connection between these objects, the portholes, and the Hollow Earth theory?
They're all connected. And the Hollow Earth theory is correct in the sense that the aliens that utilize the portals to get here are using the center of the Earth as the base. Out of sight, out of mind, and out of reach. Or until recently, until technology came out where we have these devices that can now cut through mountains.
The portholes that we talked about this hour, could they also be responsible for the appearance and disappearance of cryptoids like Bigfoot?
Yes, which could also be extraterrestrials.
Based on your experience and your research, has there been any correlations ever made between the appearance of UFOs, the appearance of Bigfoot, and the appearance of anomalies like your portholes?
That would be something that I would defer to my associate Michael Gerhard from Missing in Alaska, because that's his MO, the Bigfoot thing.
Yeah.
But I'm quite sure that we would agree that there is a very strong connection between the appearance of Bigfoot, the appearance of a UFO, and those conditions that would be useful to the facilitation of a wormhole, a portal.
Are we experiencing something that has been going on since the beginning of time?
Yes.
So if it's been going on since the beginning of time, what would we have to gain as a race to continue the investigation of this anomaly or these craft, especially when we do not have the technology today to do anything about it?
That's a good question. I even question why I'm showing a lot of the stuff that I do show on my websites, because, people ask me, and it's interesting, I'll tell you the type of camera that I use, and you'll go out and buy it. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to do the same things I do with it, because I've been doing this for a minute. It's not like something you take out of a box and then you start taking pictures of UFOs. It's just not possible. So you have to understand the conditions in which some of these things do exist, and that would be to understand relative terms of time and space, which photographically can be photographed. So that's what I'm applying to the analysis and the endeavors of doing UFO research with the type of technology that I utilize.
So you're using a scientific approach. You're using quantum physics. You're looking at it through a totally different set of glasses than most UFO investigators approach the subject.
Yes.
If somebody wanted to get involved in ufology who's listening to the show tonight, what would you suggest they do?
It's kind of hard, because I'm at this point teaching the type of technology that I'm utilizing at a college level at Howard University here in Washington, D.C. And for some of the students that I noticed that, it's a little different with the technology I'm using and the technology that's utilized by like the everyday mom and pop and kids that are out here.
Yeah.
It's a little different, because, consumer stuff is not necessarily geared for scientific exploration, while I'm dealing with it at a more scientific level with technology that's specifically designed for nocturnal applications. It's different. So it becomes expensive at some point for somebody to try to take and do the type of work that I'm doing, because the technology that I'm using is not inexpensive, and it does require a level of expertise that you would almost be required to go to college to understand.
Sure. The fact that you're a contract photographer for the National Geographic, have they ever put any of your photographs in an edition of the National Geographic? Of the UFO photos?
It's interesting. I have them as an agent, but all of the material that I generate photographically is used by other networks and other agencies like A&E, the History Channel, Discovery, BBC, NBC Universal, and National Geographic, and MTV. So, I have clients, but they don't necessarily mean that I do work directly for Nat Geo. They're just an agent, so to speak.
Oh, I see. Hey, listen, Wilbur, as always, time goes by so fast. I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. Very interesting, as always. Keep us in the loop on what's happening with your computer. I'd love to find, and I hope you find out what is
definitely.
And keep those photographs up on Facebook and your website. They're very interesting, and I think you're making a difference, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right, you take care, Wilbur. Exo Nation, Wilbur Allen has been my guest this hour, www.ufodc.com. And he is an engineer inventor, and he's no stranger to alien encounters. He had an alien encounter in the United Kingdom at the age of 5 when he came face-to-face with a group of ETs. Once again, his website, www.ufodc.com. ufodc.com, and he also has books available: A Close Encounter of the Third Kind, The Washington Monument; A Close Encounter of the Third Kind, Baltimore, Maryland; and A Close Encounter of the Third Kind at the U.S. Capitol. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, you can always send an email, studio@XZone Radio TV, on all social media sites, XZone Radio TV, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Don't go away now.